Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Digi Talks podcast. I'm Zenitsu, and this is the show that covers various topics from news to meta developments and everything in between for the fine folks who love the Digimon trading card game. Just as a quick reminder, I do try to stream this live over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, usually around 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, but fear not, if you ever miss the live stream, I always upload it as a YouTube video under the channel of Zenitsu, as well as being on various podcasting platforms like Spotify for your viewing and listening pleasure. Please feel free to do the social media doobly-doo thing and leave that like, rating, follow, subscribe, whatever, depending on the platform that you're listening on. It really does mean the world to us, and we like to think that it actually helps the podcast. So today I am back with Jay Stewart, and today we're going to be talking kind of just like future outlook of the game, because for whatever reason Bandai decided to spoil two sets. I mean, I get it, we're almost at EX09 and BT22 is like literally 1 month after, so they kind of have to spoil those like really close to each other, but the fact that there's overlapping spoilers is a little awkward, I'll say that. And because of that, we kind of know a little bit into what BT22 is going to do, and we pretty much know all of EX9 at this point. So yeah, we're just going to be looking at the future to see what it holds and kind of just our general thoughts. So before we get into that, we obviously have metadata and the question of the week. So Jay Stewart, take it away with the question of the week.
Yeah, so the question of the week comes from Benjamin Wiseman, and his says, question of the week is, do removable aces make most green strategies of suspending and swinging over your opponent's Digimon completely unviable now? I brought out a Bloom Lord today and realized that I can't deal with aces with this deck.
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. The long answer is maybe. So, like it's a little bit more complicated into that, and like it boils down to, this is why protection is like insane, and why having good protection elevates a deck past its current like tier level, or like proposed tier level. So like you could have, let's just say, a tier 3 deck, and then the second they get really good protection, it literally could go from tier 3 to tier 2, just because of the reduction in the opponent's ability to actually engage in you in a meaningful capacity. Obviously, most protections still have some sort of weakness, but yeah, it's definitely rough for decks that want to remove via combat, and that's why like a lot of green strategies are the good ones. Basically just don't do that anymore. They just bottom deck stuff, or keep it suspended, or utilize other aspects from other colors to be able to DP reduce it, de-digivolve it, do literally anything but swing over the Digimon, especially if it's a deck that utilizes aces. So, but yeah, like it's a very interesting topic. I kind of like, so I finally did it. If anyone's unfamiliar, I was holding off on making a big video, and I finally did it. Now I have to make a response video, because people still don't seem to understand the point of what I was talking about, even when I, like, explain it in layman's terms. So to kind of, like, give a more longer answer before I let Jay Stewart takes over with his thoughts and opinions on the question, interaction, to me, is more than just hand traps. So Aces is a good form to start with interaction, but interaction to me just means the ability to manipulate the opponent's field in any way, shape, or form. So when that transaction becomes one-sided is when things start getting unfair, and right now Green doesn't have the tools to actually make that transaction one-sided in their favor. And they have to rely on, like, this is why Rapidmon from the starter deck and what's his name? The Liberator dude's level 5 Digimon.
Oh, Galemon or something like
Yeah,
that.
Grand
Greymon.
Galemon.
Yeah.
That's why you're seeing those cards used in like any green deck that can fit them, is because green doesn't really have inheritables and to be able to protect themselves, like literally at all. And I'm not saying inheritables to protect themselves is the thing, but it definitely helps, and that's why decks like Tyrant are really obnoxious. Is again because if you can make the interaction one-sided, then the game is going to swing more in your favor. And unfortunately, most green decks don't really do that. But green also struggles because their whole big core mechanical thing that they were trying to do is just be the tempo king, and they're actually some of the slower decks, which is very ironic because they don't have like inheritables to just gain the memory for free half the time. They don't have that many free extra evolutions. Like they have to actually put in a lot of extra work to achieve the same output as other decks. And again, like I have a whole video kind of breaking down like the problems with Digimon, and I'll have like a follow up to that, kind of just going over some comments that I got on like the people's complete lack of understanding of what I was talking about in that video. So, what are your thoughts and opinions on the question, Jay Stewart?
Yeah. So I don't know if could easily say that all green decks are not playable because of aces, because I do remember BT14, Hercules Kabuterimon. It does have the effect of while this guy's suspended, it's unaffected by your opponent's effects. So, in a nutshell, that kind of counters what aces are wanting to do, because you want to try to ace it on your opponent's turn and get a free effect practically that disrupts their turn. But since you would be attacking with the Hercules Kabuterimon, it's not necessarily affected by Digimon effects. I mean, it's still weak to uh, options and tamers, if tamers do have like any really good like Digivolve or even DP minusing kind of situations. But to me, like I wouldn't say it's green's just unplayable. I mean, Bloomlord is like a really old deck, and I think it is time that Bloomlord has finally just kind of cycled out at this point, I think, and everything.
I mean, I'm okay with Bloomlord like not cycling out, to be 100% honest. I think like what that card is doing is really powerful. It's just
It's not.
unfortunately the protections aren't there, and the speed, like it has potential speed because he's basically a level 6 if set up correctly that could digivolve for basically 2 memory, which is really efficient. It's just unfortunately not efficient enough when other decks again are achieving something similar. And like I'm not saying like, oh, it's a bad deck for not having good protections. Like obviously if you're talking like hyper like meta competitive sake, then yes, that is the unfortunate reality because the game has been power spiked to where you need to reduce the amount of interaction that the opponent can have with you by as much as humanly possible. And Bloomlord unfortunately doesn't have the ability to fit that bill as much as some of the other more competitive decks. And that's why also green kind of has taken a step back and has been more of a support color that's splashed in stuff rather than an actual color to be focused on. But yeah, so that hopefully that answers your question to a degree. And you two, audience, can be a part of the question of the week. As always, feel free to post a question down in the comments below for us to read for next week's episode. I do have a YouTube membership, and I will prioritize YouTube membership questions over non-YouTube membership questions. So if you want to really prioritize that your question will get read, feel free to join my YouTube membership. And you'll also get a little bit of exclusive content too, because I'm posting my gameplay from locals, raw, unedited, up on there as well. And sometimes I'll go through and edit at least one of those matches. But you get to hear completely unfiltered thoughts and opinions that I have with my peeps at locals. So, just putting a little shill there for a minute. But I guess This is a good point to take a look at the meta because, yay, we have metadata. And the metadata we have is coming from Play TCG, Texas. Um, so that was an event that was ran this past weekend. Congratulations to all the players who did well and played and participated in that event. It definitely looked like it was a pretty decent event considering it was a like capped event. I think there was one player off from the cap. And it was 9 rounds of Swiss, best of 3. Top 16 archetype breakdown is 6 Begidra, 3 Royal Knights, 2 Hero, 1 Adventure, 1 Imperial, Blue Green Imperial, 1 Red Purple Imperial, 1 Lord. It says Lord Nightmon, but it's basically Dog Engine dot purple good stuff. And then there's Galaxy Engine dot good red blue stuff. So yeah, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 decks that were able to make it into top 16. The majority of it obviously being ruled by Megidramon. As far as what took first place, we had Huang Zero take first with Adventures, marking it the very first time Adventures actually is on the map when it comes to the competitive spectrum. I don't necessarily like it. I'm not disregarding his run, but I feel like this is a good example of how one person utilizing a deck that they fine-tuned and crafted can spike events, but I do not think anyone else other than him is going to be able to replicate his level of success. So I'm just going to be putting that out there right now. It's great that he did it. The deck list looks very good. We'll go over that in a minute, but I honestly do not think people are going to be able to replicate that success.
Yeah, because like I know there is after a while, like I think it was like BT10 or even 11, there was like a player that was like constantly topping with like Alphamon or Yukon, and it was only that one player that was able to really do it.
Yeah, we've
So
had a
like
couple of like really good players spike events and make a deck look stronger than it actually is in terms of the grand scheme of the meta. Because part of meta is popularity, I will say that. But the other part is actual skillful play and really good, solid understanding of your matchups. And like we've seen it before with like I think All Force was one of those decks too, where it's just like literally one person spiked a couple of events utilizing All Force, and nobody else used All Force but him and topped, which I think is funny.
not to discredit Wong Zero and everything. He is a good player and everything.
Actually, if
So
anything, it's putting him on a higher pedestal. And now that I think about it, I'm just like, oh, well, I guess it's kind of like a backhanded compliment. Yeah, no beef to Huang, great player. Uh, I don't think I engaged with him in person a whole lot at nationals at any time. Um, but yeah, this also is his season. Like if you look at like not to, we'll get back to the meta report in a minute, but like if you actually look at Huang's like competitive portfolio, this is the season he usually wins. Like he will win one big event for the whole year, and it's usually always the spring, early summer event, which I find is kind of funny, but kind of fitting as well because he, as a player and his team that is very good deck builders, these are the moments that they will perform better before the meta gets like fully known. So that way he, as a good player, let alone someone who plays a little bit more on the aggressive to mid-range side, will very, very easily take advantage of the, in quotation marks, unknowns. And considering how deep Adventures is in terms of the complexity to build, it's no wonder why that's the deck that he won this season with. So, enough gushing about the fact that Huang did good. Second place was another YouTuber, Donkey Nog, on Dog Engine. Good stuff. It's probably the deck he has had the most competitive success with. He knows inside and out, and because it's just leveraging good purple stuff, we'll take a look at the deck in a minute when we get through the rest of these. It's very obvious that he's just good with Dog Engine. Like, it's just, it never was bad. And it goes to highlight, like, a lot of players prefer new and shiny rather than old reliable. But going over the rest of it, third place was Red Purple Imperial, fourth McGeedramon, fifth and sixth were both Royal Knights, seventh was Heroes. A lot of people are just thinking it's it's App Heroes to be more specific. I don't know where I was going with it. I was trying to come up with something more clever. But it's App Heroes. 8 and 9 were McGeedramon, 10 was the Blue Green All Force, 11th was McGeedramon, 12th was App Heroes again, 13th was Royal Knights, 14th was McGeedramon as well as 15th, and 16th was Galaxy. So just to kind of like look at the decks for a quick second, Galaxy, nothing's changed. Like, it's still just using all of the exact same tools. I think this player is using a Bond of Friendship as like a surprise ace, which is fine because it likes big stacks, and because of how the deck digivolves, you can make a big stack to make his ability work better. So yeah, nothing new there. Then I'm not even gonna bother with the plethora of McGeedramon and Royal Knight stacks. There's like not really a whole lot of innovation there. It's just two of the better decks of the format. We talked about App Heroes. One of them was on stream. This event was streamed, so if you want to see the games or some of the games, feel free to check out the live stream. But yeah, App Heroes, it's just leveraging the hero engine to go into level 5s, and then from your level 5s, you could do whatever you want with your level 6s. Most people are going to be running Gaiamon because Gaiamon actually is pretty decent. Especially since you have like some apps to be able to combo him with. It took me, I was playing this deck at locals, and it took me a second to like understand how everything was flowing, and then it clicked probably about midway through locals. I was just like, this is how the deck operates. I can say the deck is very unfortunately fair. But when it pops off, it can do some really crazy things. It's just, unfortunately, from my personal experience with the deck, I feel like it does a lot to end in very little damage, which is funny. It's just more like good control in the level 5 slots that also can deal pretty okay damage, and then the level 6 you're just leveraging just because you can. And you're just trying to efficiently get up into your 5s. Like, that's the big core of it. And you have some really strong tamers that could do that. But unfortunately, it is a tamer-heavy deck, and if you don't see your tamers, then the deck kind of falters. So finding a good tamer balance is definitely going to be key. But yeah, so App Heroes. The other one's going to look very similar to this one. The majority of the core, because Heroes is a lot more limited than Adventures, is going to be the exact same. So I guess the only unique decks is just the innovation on Lord Knight and Adventures, because Red Purple Imperial is still just boring. It's the same combo deck we've been playing since the last format. So let's look at Lord Knight. Lord Knight, again, it's literally just purple dogs on the low end. And then the top end is where, like, you have the Lord Knight to revive level 5s and 3s for more flexibility. You have Lord Knight Mon X because Deep Digivolve's insane. The combination of Alliance, Collision, and Piercing is just really strong. You have the Tech 1 of Anubismon because Anubismon is borderline broken. Then you have the Levia and Levia X because the deck is playing 7th Lightning. So you could leverage some of that on top of the fact that you also can use Levia X with X Antibody Protoform to do some cheeky things. It's weird that this deck isn't running Biting Crush. I would think
I thought that
I would
too.
think that he would run at least one Biting Crush.
I don't know, because to me, like, I feel like at that point you might as well just run more Leviamons in and just keep the Binding Crushes consistent.
Yeah,
But
that's a fair point because it does seem like it's with two Lord Nightmon X's, it's trying to leverage Lord Nightmon X a little bit more to get a level 4 to go into another level 5 because they are running a Dark Dramon Ace. That seems like a really good card to combo with Anubismon, so that way you could like get its on play when digivolving to de-digivolve, or you could set up a level 5 after digivolving into Lord Nightmon, digivolve the level 4 into the level 5, and then try to like ace bait them from there.
yeah, I find it weird that it's called Lord Naimon because when I'm looking at it, the top end, it's just literally all good purple stuff, really.
I
So
think
it's
it's
like it
just
should be,
called Lord Knight because there's two Lord Nightmons and every other level 6 is a single.
yeah, it's just really more of a, uh, it
Toolbox,
really
yeah.
is just dog engine toolbox. That's
Yeah,
really what it
dog engine
is.
dot purple good stuff. Like there is no other way to say it. So, good on Momin for taking his favorite deck and still doing well with it. Um, and then the aforementioned adventures deck, it does look a little weird, but like from a deck building perspective, it does make a lot of sense. So the floodgates are good at slowing the opponent down, and in this format, the slower you can make your opponent, it doesn't matter how fast you can move, if as long as you're moving competently. But the slower that you can make the opponent go, the better you're going to be performing. Especially since like the idea seems like you're going to be hard playing your tamers, which isn't bad because they're all 3 costs except for Ty. He's a 4 cost. But it's like I'm going to Digivolve and Rising Heartslam Tamer, then move out, Digivolve, do something else, or sit there and Heartslam another Tamer and do something else. Like it's a very fluid deck, and all of the level 5s are control based level 5s, so it's like as hard removal as you possibly can, and then Mega Kabuterimon is like a good offense and defensive card. So that way it's trying to leverage Our Courage United a little bit better. So when your level 5 goes away, you replace it with another control tool. So like against something like Megidramon or other OTK decks, as long as you could use your on play effects, because again there are floodgates that prevent on plays. But as long as you're able to get your on plays, it's like, okay, they delete your Digimon, then you replace it, then that Digimon that you replace it with is able to do some type of removal type effect. So it's very control heavy on the level 5s, and then aggro on the level 4s, 3s, and 6s. So, I mean, it's also running Wargreymon Ace just for a little bit of extra defensive backbone. Just because the immunities can be really annoying, and you also could trigger his ability multiple times because his when attacking is not limited to once per turn. So you could be like, Digivolve, do his effect to delete something, swing, do his effect to delete something, Mega Kabuterimon, unsuspend him, swing, do his effect to delete something. So you could effectively delete like 3 bodies in a single turn, which is really strong, and something that a lot of decks can't do is delete Digimon more than once. So that does like come up, and then obviously Melga plays out level 4s and level 3s, so you could bring back your floodgates, you could bring back your searching tools, you could even bring back your free evos, so that way you could evo into level 5s for more control. Like it's just a clean deck. That's all I can say. Thinking about it, it's probably actually the best way to play adventures. I was messing around with adventures myself, and I couldn't find a combination outside of like turning it into some big OTK combo deck, which was not very good or consistent. This is probably just way more consistent, and I think this probably is the best way to build adventures. Um, so I got to get my hands on some extra ties.
Yeah, because I mean, everything in here is practically from the 2 starter decks, with the exception of the 2 ties. But
It's
I
like
don't
2
think.
ties and Skull Greymon. That's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
much
and
it.
Skull Grimlock.
Yeah.
Like,
No, because the
so
egg
this
is
is a very
broken. Yeah, like almost everything else is from the starter deck. Oh, and the metal gray bones. That's it.
oh yeah, and the Milker. But yeah, this is practically a really budget-friendly deck. So glad to see something like this topping and everything.
Well, minus the ties. So, like, if you're
Yeah,
thinking from a budget perspective, obviously buy singles. But if you're buying starter decks, you're going to be getting two of each starter deck, so that's already $60. Um, then the ties is like another 50, so you're at 150. And then everything else, yeah, that's the majority of the cost is literally just the ties and getting the starter decks. Um, but I know you could get the starter decks without the scrambles for a lot cheaper. You could probably get it for like 10ish bucks. So even like if you do that approach, it's still around $100-ish because of the ties. Um, and the deck doesn't necessarily need the ties. The ties just make the deck better because one, he's another color, two, he's on brand, and three, he plays level fives for free, which is really strong. But the big thing, after like looking at Huang's video for a hot second, he didn't face his bad matchup once. So I think if he literally ran into a Galacti, that would have been like the run ender in terms of him getting first place. Because I think that's like a very extra negative matchup. I think if any deck is running any kind of tamer hate or removal, because you're always hard playing your tamers, um, like this deck will struggle with that. So it's not an unbeatable deck. It's just his string of players were not running any tamer hate and didn't have any tamer hate, so he was able to run away with the event because of that. Not saying you should go out and play Galacti, because Galacti has his own polarizing matchups, but I'm just pointing out that he was able to do well because he also did see his like absolute worst matchups. And from the
yeah,
sounds of it on his video, the Imperial player also might not have been running Hexablau. He didn't exactly say any of that in his video. I'm just like guessing because I think the Imperial was the only one he tied against. But yeah, like Hexablau would have definitely been a really big thorn in this deck side. Like any tamer hate. And he faced mostly Royal Knights, so yeah.
yeah, because like honestly, like the second place dog engine deck, if they focused more on the Paimon like we have seen before, that could have definitely been someone that could have gave the deck a run for its money for sure. But yeah,
So that is the event in a nutshell. In terms of like meta standings, I think like we're at a good I don't even want to call it good. We're at a consolidation of four main decks dominating the format, and it's Blue Green Imperial as probably dead last at fourth place, followed by Sakuyamon, then Megidramon, then Royal Knights. You could probably flip flop Megidramon and Royal Knights. I think it's like Megidramon just has a higher representation because it's a cheaper deck. So I don't necessarily think Megidramon is stronger than Royal Knights. I think Royal Knights is way stronger, but it's a way less accessible deck, so there's less people playing it. But that's probably where this meta currently is your those four are your safest picks if you want to try to do well, and then outside of that, it's your own risk. Like I said, Galacti's got some polarizing matchups. Any tamer heavy deck has really polarizing matchups against like literally Galacti. Galacti's like the best anti-meta deck. But yeah, like it's interesting on how many, like I would just define it as tier 2 decks we have versus the tier 1. Like I would say we have four tier 1 decks, then probably Galactimon, and then a slew of tier 2 decks. Like a very wide margin of tier 2 decks, but the power gap between the tier 1 decks and the tier 2 decks is like absolutely crazy because I was playing Hero Apps at Locals this week, and I faced Imperial, got absolutely hardcore bodied. Like it was not even a fair fight. And then I faced Medusa, and we actually had a really good match, good back and forth, very close games, and I'm just like, it's it's astonishing how night and day Digimon is from like one step below the current power level to like things being remotely even across the field. It's a wild like I literally felt whiplash at locals. So,
Yeah,
did you make it out to your locals this week, Jay Stewart?
unfortunately I didn't either. I
Ah,
plan on going this week though. I definitely plan on probably going this week.
yeah, I gotta figure out a new deck to bring to locals. Um,
Yeah, because
cause go ahead.
to me it yeah, it's like to me it's like I part of me is like if I'm gonna go to locals, I'm probably just gonna end up bringing back Galatimon again. But it's like I'd really want to try to play something different. But I just really don't know what else is out there that kind of fits me right now, so to say. And funny thing is, like I got my hands on two medieval Galamons right now, so it's like I could probably easily play Royal Knights if I really wanted to. But I really just don't feel like Royal Knights is kind of my vibe and everything, my play style.
I get it. I totally understand. Like I play a lot of different decks, one for content, two to understand them, and not all of the decks that I play vibe with me at all. So I get it. But we do have I guess news wise before we move on to the grand topic. We do have a regulation battle coming up. Um So if anyone's unfamiliar with regulation battles, basically it's like what Ultimate Cups of Old were doing, except for stores where it's just an alternating rule set to try to vary up the game. And this one is the rule set's hot garbage. I'm just gonna spoil it right there. I think this is one of the worst rule sets because the rule set is you're limited to use very specific decks, and those specific decks are based on the Digivices. So you got like Excel, Nightmare Soldiers, Deep Savers, Wing Guardians, DMs 1 through 5, or like 1 through 6, or however many there are. And that's basically it. So not only is the field of decks very small, the power level of the decks is like comedically sad on how imbalanced they are compared to one another. Because there's borderline no reason not to just play either Machine Dramon or what's its face? Machine Dramon or Omnimon. I think like in third place is probably Excel. Just because Excel you could leverage the folder arms to do stuff. But I think like honestly, if you want to play that event and win, you're going to want to play Omnimon. He is just the strongest deck, and if you don't feel like playing Omnimon, you're going to be playing Machine Dramon. And I think like that's pretty sad that not only is the field of decks very narrow, but the narrowness continues because there's two that are significantly above everything else.
Yeah, because so something that kind of like I wouldn't say it's like a big major gripe I have, but it's like just kind of somewhat disappointing and everything. Like the Abdomon, I think that's how it's pronounced and everything. Like I can't even play that in the new rule set and everything, and I don't know how good Abdomon's going to be in like normal regulations and everything.
Oh,
So
he's
it's just kind of
terrible.
sad that
He's borderline unplayable, which is ironic. So we could get into that in a
yeah,
moment.
yeah, because it's just like why can't I play like this new deck you introduced in this set and everything? Oh, because it doesn't have the DM trait. Well, that just goes so much for me having a black deck I could play.
Oh, what do you mean? You have Machine Dramon.
Yeah, Machine Dramon, but it's like mostly going to be using like a bunch of different other colors too and everything.
I mean, so the big gimmick is 30 cards out of your deck have to have that trait. So you could use 20 cards that are outside of the specific traits that they list as part of your deck. So that way you could run like your memory boosts, your trainings, generic good tamers, like whatever. Um, so it does slightly alter deck building considering I think like Machine Dramon, like if I were to actually look at a max power Machine Dramon based on what this card does and theory craft it, the majority of it probably isn't the DM stuff, but I think like the deck can still work because of the DM stuff. Cause you have no, that's not a machine. You have a lot of like black machines because you have it's not a machine, but you have Omnimon that you could leverage with the training mechanic. You have a Metal
Metal
Greymon.
Greymon.
Technically two of them because you have Alteris. Yeah, you have Alteris mode as well. So you technically have two, even though he's not a DM. Then you got what's his face? Megadramon. There we go. You got Megadramon as well. So like it's very possible to build a very strong Machine Dramon deck with the limitations placed on him. But that's why a lot of people probably are just gonna say screw it. I'm just gonna play Omnimon Alter S and make my life easy because this card is I hate everything about this card because I think like he's leveraging some of the worst aspects of Digimon. And I think like as a whole, so in my big video that I made this past week, I basically said like we get realistically one or two playable decks each set, and it's very obvious that those two decks are Machine Dramon and Alter S, and then you could say Puppets is up there, but Puppets is already an existing deck, and it's mostly the level 5 and 6 doing the heavy lifting. So it's more of just an update rather than something like wholly new. And I think like wholly new, that's Omnimon Alter S. That's his territory. And I even think the Omnimon Ace deck that we had in like BT17 is just going to use this package. Like it's going to be a very strong combination of cards between Crest Ace, Blitz Ace, and Alter S.
Yeah, because I mean, not only do you have the cards from BT17, you also do have the cards from EX4, I think that's what it was, where it was like the alternate forms or something like that. It was called. But like,
Yeah,
you know,
and
there's like
the deck
like I'm not
obviously
saying it's
wants
that
to.
good, but
Yeah, and the deck obviously wants to be played with the adventure engine because that's why the level 5s are adventure trait. So that way you could actually just do basically take Kwang's list and then splash in Sagittarius, splash in the level 5s, the level 6s, and the level 7 and be totally fine. So maybe you would have to alter a little bit based on like the changes that you would make, but yeah, like Omnimon is like absolutely insane. I just hate the fact that he has like Omni protection. So like what this card is doing, in case anyone's actually wondering, is he DNA Digivolves, which is fine. Off of red and blue level 6s, normal DNA stuff. He could Digivolve for normal on DM traded Digimon for 5 or red and blue Digimon for 5. Then he has a Wind Digivolving effect where if you DNA'd, he's just unaffected by your opponent's cards for the turn. Cards. It was errated. It is cards. It's not limited to just Digimon. It is like everything. Your opponent just cannot interact with this card, period. And then he deletes all the opponent's Digimon with the highest level. So, you know, insult to injury.
well, that's not even the worst part.
Right. The worst part is the fact that this card is like heavily loopable to just end the game the second you go into Omnimon. Which, again, if anyone listened to my video, that was a big gripe and complaint that I had is like everything that led up to the point of you playing the Omnimon Alter S combo is basically irrelevant. Because at the end of the attack, you get to play one Greymon with version 1 in their trait and one Gurumon with version 2 in their trait from its Digivolution sources for free. And then if this effect played out those Digimon, then he goes to the top of your security. So the whole idea is he's replaying the level 6s that were used to DNA, so that way you just have another Alter S and you DNA again. And like that's the whole cute little combo is you're going to Digivolve, like DNA into him for 0, because that's what DNA does. Swing, split out, DNA for 0, swing, split out, DNA for 0. And then we even have like the option cards to be able to add the top card of our security back into our hand. So you could be like, okay, I have like 3 memory or 4 memory. I'm just going to use the option, grab back an Omnimon and make another attack. Like it's just hyper degenerate at like its worst, I'd say. Um so yeah, that's Omnimon's gimmick, and the fact that he's protected throughout the whole thing just means the opponent literally has 0 outs to him, and he's gonna blow up all of their cards, assuming they actually can be. He's just a walking mistake in my perspective.
Yeah, and I think what even makes it a matter of even more worse than everything is the fact that the Blitzgreymon Ace and the Kreskarumon Ace, there's they weren't bad cards themselves in this set and everything as well. Because I mean, even the inheritable of like the Greymon Ace, oh, it gets security attack +1. Oh, and the Kreskarumon, what does it do? Oh yeah, this Digimon's target can't be changed, so you can't use block. Like there is nothing stopping this guy from just doing all these checks, and their on plays are pretty powerful in themselves too when Alterus replays them back out, because Blitzgreymon, he Digi evolves by 3. And then the Kreskarumon, his on play, what's it do? Sorry. Return one of your opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon to the bottom of the deck. So practically, it's multiple ways of clearing your opponent's board, so that way when you DNA into the Omnimon, it's so easy to just field wipe them and everything.
Yeah, it's incredibly crazy how good these cards are actually going to be, and it's going to be interesting to see how we actually end up using them. But like in layman's terms, it's going to be a very strong game-ending combo when you go up into it. It does have a very fire alt art though, um, so
Oh yeah, I do love the alt art of all 3 of those and everything. I love when they do the combined arts, but
yeah, because like nothing in EX9 really is striking me as like, oh my god, I have to have this outside of Alter S, Machine Dramon, and Kaguyamon. Like everything else just feels aggressively mid to me from a high competitive level, but like on a lower competitive level, I think like there's a lot of like fun and cute things to be had here. Just nothing that's gonna like really rock anyone's socks. We got a Beatomon, and I think that deck is wholly unplayable. It's really sad because the level 7, the big boss monster, Albedomon Core, has like collision piercing security attack 1, reboot and blocker, and introduces a new timing mechanic of when moving. So he has an ability that triggers when he's moved out of the raising area. So they finally like not really keyworded, but they simplified that mechanic to actually be a timing word. So that's kind of cool. And he has like this whole gimmick where he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna build up myself on the field, make all of my on plays cheaper, then get a core out in the raising area, and then when the opponent attacks, I'm gonna like pseudo ace them and move out a core to block them and whatnot. But the big problem with core is more so of the fact that he's just too slow. Like getting the Negamon set up is just going to be a absolute struggle, and it's not going to be worth it for the payout, which
yeah, it
is
almost
unfortunate.
yeah, it almost does seem like a worse version of Apocalypse from BT15 in a weird way.
Yeah, like he's a good card. He's doing a lot. It's just the Negamon requirement is going to be the hardest part, and the only card like outside of Willis to try to turbo your Negamons out of raising is Analog or Mimi. Which I'm not saying that's a huge problem. If anything, that's great that there's not a lot of options. But like I think they were thinking about how he would be like he obviously wants to be a more stally defensive deck. And unfortunately, he's not doing enough at that stally defensive portion to really make the juice worth the squeeze, in my perspective. I could be 100% wrong. This is just pure speculation and outlook based on what we know and what we're seeing. I don't think he's there.
Yeah, like if you especially compare it with a bunch of other cards from this set that get introduced, or even older decks that get more support, it's like I'm sorry, I just don't see it with this guy.
Yeah, like I said, we already talked to Omnimon about him being a mistake. Machine Dramon is basically just a power creep version of the EX1 Machine Dramon. Like, this whole set kind of feels like EX1 in disguise, except a way better EX1. Like, this is almost what EX1 should have been, in my perspective. Where it's just like, it's a lot of good flavor, and it's a lot of good themes, a lot of good characters. Um, but in terms of good decks, Machine Dramon definitely is going to be one to look out for because of the new levels of protection that he has. So, like, the old one had flaws and weaknesses. It still covered a lot, but this one literally says if it were to be, like, removed from the field, it just doesn't leave by trashing either two cyborgs or two face down Digimon in its evolution source, which you get from training, like the training mechanic. Then assembly is kind of cracked, where it's just like four level 5 cyborgs from your grave or trash with different names. Like, Machine Dramon already wants to do that, and this is just an easier way to accomplish it. Then the cost, obviously, for doing that is one less than if you were to hard play the old Machine Dramon. So it's a tiny bit more efficient, as well as just being wholeheartedly better.
Well, I would even argue that compared like it just on assembly alone, it already blows out the EX1 away. Because in order to actually do the whole gaining memory and everything, you need to have a minimum of 12 memory to play because you still have to pay the whole 12 memory, then you get the memory back. Where this guy, you just need to have room for six. So it's a lot easier to play this guy out when you have room for six memory versus 12.
Yes, that is another big distinction point, is like you actually need to have the memory before you could gain it back, and this is just a cost reduction. So it is just fundamentally easier to use. And then the crazy kooky part is he adds sources to him, so he's fueling his own protection, and he's even gaining on play effects of what's underneath him, similar to what Gamamon was doing. So you could wholeheartedly just hardcore toolbox him in various different ways. Like, I know a lot of people were bringing up the BT7 gray, like Metal Greymon, because he could just either set up a tamer for free, which you wouldn't want to do because it's just easier to gain 2 memory. So he's effectively a borderline indestructible level 6 Digimon you could play for like 4 memory. And I'm just like, that's wild. Like, that is absolutely wild. So, or less, because you could have cost reducers on top of that, because he is his deck already wanted to do that as well. So yeah, and then Kaguyamon. I'm not going to be talking anything else about the set because I honestly don't think the rest of it is like even worth mentioning. Sorry, Wind Guardians fans. Um, it's just no. But Kaguyamon, what's really making Kaguya super good is just all of the puppet synergy. Like, we get Arisa's older sister.
I thought that was her brother, but maybe I got that wrong.
I mean, it's a female character.
Oh, never mind. I'll
Yeah,
take that back.
I'm pretty sure Maria is a female character. Um, but yeah, so it's Arisa's older sister. She's a character. She's interacting with puppets like Arisa, and her Digimon is Kaguyamon. Like, the big thing that was keeping puppets back, like, they had a lot of good tools, and you could do a lot with the tools that they had, but like at the end of the day, they lacked one, good
Aggression.
protection, and two, the extra aggression. And the level 5 and level 6 in this set literally solve that problem all at once, because the level 6 gives all of your tokens and puppets alliance and blocker. You don't care about the blocker, you care about the alliance, because the deck spits out tokens like bunny rabbits. So just having alliance just gives you the extra aggression. And then on top of that, she constantly is replaying your level 4s. Um, so That's really good at just being able to spawn a body to use for her ability offensively and defensively. And then she also has removal built in. So she's literally just the complete package. I have good offensive and defensive capabilities. I am a self fulfilling engine that doesn't really need any other support. And I also have built in removal because everything has built in removal at this point. But more importantly, the level 5 is like actually nuts because the level 5 essentially equates to free evolutions, which tempo is important. And yeah, this card's like cracked on tempo because you just digivolve for 3 into this on top of your puppets, sacrifice a token, and then digivolve for free into any of your puppet level 6s. So, like, that's absolutely insane. On top of the fact that it's an inheritable that has protection. So, it's basically, oh god, super, super decoy. That's it. Yeah. So the inheritable is basically super decoy. So that way, if your Digimon were to leave by an effect, you just sacrifice a token, and then it doesn't. And because the level 6s generate extra bodies, you will always have the protection available. At least one instance of it. I don't think the level 4s or the level 3 does it. No, they don't have the protections, but they're the level 4 and the level 3 are just okay. It's more of the level 5 and the level 6 that are doing a lot of heavy lifting. So that is essentially EX9 in a nutshell. I think flavor wise, it's a pretty fun set. Deck wise, you have one of 3 decks to pick from. One of them is basically an update to puppets, and the other 2 is like Machine Dramon and Alter S and finding good cores and engines to work with them. Because I do think Machine Dramon needs a little bit of reworking. Or like
Yeah,
a
I think
revisit.
I think Machine Dramon would have to just end up going back to its old school way back in I don't know, like too old school or anything. Because like I know like a lot more of the Machine Dramon support has been more focusing on you digivolving and everything, whereas the
Yeah.
old version had your trash set up and everything. So maybe that's what it needs to do is just go back to that version. If I was to pick a version to do it, at least.
Yeah, I mean, you have 2 separate analog mans to work with also. So, like, you just need a tamer setter and like you the analog setup and you're basically good to go because you'll have good ways to fuel your trash to be able to get the assembly online pretty quickly. It's probably going to use analog youth, not the new one, but the old one. You could technically use the new one if you want to just like make it more of a DM focused build, but I think obviously like that's too narrow and he's just going to be better using a whole bunch of like miscellaneous tools like he already was. It's just now he's even stronger and faster.
Yeah, I think using the old analog man and the new one are going to be really stupid good because the new one is the memory setter. Plus, it's in general, whenever you play cost 7, when you were to play any 7 cost or higher cyborg machine or DM trait Digimon, you can spend the tamer to gain 1 and draw 1. So already that's reducing the play cost right there of that level 6 machine Dramon right there down to 4 if you're using the EX7 Metal Greymon.
Yeah, and then let's not even get into Chaos X because at least like Chaos X is gonna have the abilities of everything that's underneath him, and that means that he'll have the new Machine Dramon to work with, and yeah, it's gonna be probably the deck that's gonna be the most experimental on finding the optimal stuff. That and Alter S. I think Puppets is like but easy to build. Because the tools are pretty obvious on what's more optimal. So, yeah, good flavor, interesting mechanic with training, but those 3 decks are going to absolutely dominate, and everything else might as well just not exist. Um, And then going into BT22, this is the set that you're more excited about because it's Cyber Sleuth. I think everything that they showed from the set has the Cyber Sleuth trait. So the Cyber Sleuth
Yeah,
trait is
that's
probably going to be absolutely busted because of how wide and open it is.
yeah, and it that does honestly kind of like the fact that everything does have the Cyber Sleuth trait. That does have me a little confused. Why? Because there is different fractions in there and everything. Like what is it? The Skull Marimon, I think it is. It references the tamer, the guy that uses it. I think it's the Skull Marimon, but or maybe
Yeah,
it's
it's
just Marimon.
no, it is no, Skull Marimon is he's a very interesting card. He's doing like the whole like it seems like Marimon has this whole gimmick where it's just like you activate its main by paying memory to do something. So this is following that trait. It wants to be like a flame deck, it feels like. I think it's the level fours, like one of the level fours that references the tamer. No,
Yeah,
that's flame.
but what I was trying to say though was the tamer that uses it is Jimmy. He literally looks like Kiss and everything in it, and he has like his own little fraction in it and everything. I just don't remember what the group is, and I'm trying to remember the girl's name. I think her name was Yuki, if I remember. She's the one that uses the Rise Greymon that eventually goes into the Gaiomon, and she has like there's a whole nother fraction in the Digimon Cyber Sleuth right there in itself. Like the only actual Cyber Sleuth person is the main character, uh, Amy, I guess, is what they're calling her.
Yeah, protagonist, because they could have a guy version, like a new iteration of the guy.
Yeah, and like I think Nokia, like even she has like her own different fraction as well. And Arata kind of does his own thing, so
I would
you
say
could
Arata's
consider.
a cyber sleuth. He helps protag a lot.
Yeah, he helps protect, but it's like different alignments, I guess, because eventually he does branch off into his own thing.
Yeah, because
So
it feels like the eaters kind of want to play with him. Because I think one of the eaters references him.
I think he
No,
references the
he
Eaters
yeah
actually.
he references the eaters. I had that backwards. Are the eaters unidentified as well? Now that I think about it.
I'm pretty confident they are.
No, they're not. They are just cyber sleuths.
Huh, weird. For some reason I thought they were unknown or unidentified.
Yeah, no, they're just cyber sleuths. That's hilarious though.
But yeah, it does have me like. It's not that I'm against everything being like Cyber Sleuth and everything. It's just really don't know how I feel about that for sure. Because it just feels like you could just take one like for pre-release this could work out really well, but
Oh, it's gonna be
outside of
butter
pre
for pre-release. Like that's gonna be probably the best usage of having a singular trait spread out through everything and everything interacts with that one specific trait. It's gonna make pre-release very, very buttery compared to the past. Because in the past everything was just kind of hot and bothered and awkward because nothing really worked well with each other. This last set, like the confliction between like heroes and some of the other traits was kind of awkward. So yeah, everything being cyber sleuth is gonna make this set feel like butter.
yeah. And I know like Nokia herself, she's not necessarily too crazy in everything, but like I definitely think like the Agumon and the Gabumon in this is going to be really stupid busted with that Alter S Omnimon because of the fact that they have that inheritable of end of turn DNA, and especially if you combo that with the Matt and Ty from EX9 that could potentially gain you two memory by playing out Digimon, that's going to be busted in itself in keeping turn.
Yeah, Omnimon as a DNA based deck, especially with the Cyber Sleuth cards coming in and Nokia support, it's gonna be a very, very nutty deck, and it it just depends on how fast it's able to set up and go. To be honest, on how good that deck's actually gonna be. Like you can have strong cards in a vacuum, but like if it's too hard to get up into your win condition or end goal, then that's gonna be the telling sign. But I think like based on how much support we have and are getting, it's probably going to be pretty easy and pretty fast. Um, it's just how fast, if it's actually going to be a problem, is the real question. Because like it feels like based on their effects is where the faction kind of thing happens, because you have like all of the protagonist Digimon that want Digimon of the same level to be underneath them, so that way you could stack them up. Except like the crazy part is actually the hilarious part is all of them do have X forms, so they are still supporting their own deck. Like they could go into their own deck, or they could go into the Cyber Sleuth deck.
Yeah, they really could, because I mean, Hagurumon has its own X antibody, Palmon has its own X antibody, and Terriermon as well. Like that should be pretty obvious. But like even something
Yeah.
like crazy to me is like when I saw the Togemon, I thought like to me what jumped out of my brain right away was the fact that Galacticmon or Galaxy could potentially even use Togemon, because now that gives the engine access to raid and piercing on top of that.
The only problem is green, as we kind of just alluded to earlier, like it's good and all, but green still just needs a lot of work, and I don't think this card's gonna single-handedly fix green, or even the Palmon. So like I think from like a macro perspective, as long as they don't do anything stupid like they did with the Galaxy engine, it's probably fine that they can do that type of stuff. So I don't particularly see an issue with like combining the Palmons with other CSs and the green X line. Like I think it just gives more deck building opportunities, which is fine. But like we are running into an issue where I feel like with the Sagittarius and Altarius modes for the level 5s in EX9, you get to a point where I think they're just trying to spread the card too thin on what it's supporting, and they're trying to support everything, but you can't reasonably do that anymore. Like, not saying that it's bad, it's just it's either going to dilute the card's ability and make it too weak, or um or the inverse, it's going to make the card absolutely cracked because of how many things it could go into.
Yeah, because I mean,
So,
so far they haven't revealed a tamer that's exactly like Ko and Sai from EX5 yet. But
God,
I mean,
I hope not. And if there is, they better hard lock that to CS only. Like I swear,
yeah,
if
like
they don't do that, like they already didn't. They already kind of learned from Davis and Ken's mistake with Nokia, because Nokia is basically just a worse Davis and Ken. I mean, different, not necessarily like worse, but different. And Davis and Ken is still ultimately a stronger card, but um, Nokia is trying to do something similar.
yeah, because like I'm looking at the Amy card right now just to make sure it's not anything like Ko and Sai. But when any of your Digimon Digivolve into a Digimon card with CS trait, if it has a Digivolution card with the same level, by spending the tamer, that Digimon may Digivolve to a CS trait without pain. So I don't know if there's going to be another card that allow, because like right now I don't think there's anything in the CS trait in itself that's allowing you to put multiples of the same level underneath. So there's probably going to be a card that comes out later on. I think that could easily do it. Whether I doubt it's going to be like a level 5 or something like that, or level 6 that could tuck sources. But I mean that is kind of like the whole gimmick of Cyber Sleuth is DDG evolving your guy and then building it back up to make it stronger.
Yeah, whether it's raising its friendship, looking for specific stats. So like I from like the one thing I could say that's been consistently like on point with the Digimon card game is the amount of detail and references to the source material is like immaculate. It's like borderline masterclass in flavor design. Cuz like yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense that that's what you do in the video game, so that's what you're going to do in the card game. And I think like the Amy is kind of being like this Ko and Sayo, where it's like yes, you are not paying anything to de-digivolve, but then you have to pay to go back up, and then paying to go back up after going back down is kind of annoying from like the current gameplay perspective point. And that's probably the issue that Tamer is trying to solve, is basically just give you the free evolutions to go back into the stage that you once were. So
Yeah,
there's more to the set, and then obviously we're going to be getting more apps, so the set's not going to be 100% Cyber Sleuth, but the fact that we already have like what 22 cards and they're all Cyber Sleuth traded is pretty kooky, in terms of like being good for sealed and limited.
yeah. Part of me is hoping that I do see not Royal Knights, Royal Base support in this, because there is a tamer that specific that specifically uses the Tiger Bespamon and everything in Cyber Sleuth.
That would be nice. Royal Base could use that, like use an upgrade, because I think like Royal Base isn't terrible. It's just
It's a
slow.
Yeah, it's a really fun deck that actually is really unique, mechanically speaking wise. It just doesn't have a lot of tools right now to use.
Yeah, it's
It
it's
needs
just
more.
slow. Well, no, it has
It,
it has the entire X antibody mechanic to work with. So it's got a deep pool as far as what it can play with. It's just the big problem is the deck in of itself is just fundamentally too slow for where the state of the game is. And it like if the opponent also can hit your security fast enough, then you literally can't do anything. Because a lot of your effects come from your security. So like there's a lot of inherent weaknesses, which I think is like good towards its design, because it's designed to be more of a defensive deck. It's just too slow at being able to set up its defensive game plan to really stop or mean anything.
yeah, to me, it's like Royal Base is kind of like right now, somewhat like similar to the Puppets. Like if it does get support like the Puppets did in EX9, then it could really be good.
Yeah, I have to go and like look to see what that deck is actually lacking. Um but like that's a deck that it's unfortunately to try to fix some of its issues, you have to spend a lot of money because you need the protoforms, because that's how you're going to accelerate uh the deck and make it move faster. And that card's still not a cheap card. So I think like that's keeping like because of that card, it's like honestly keeping experimentation down to a bare bone minimum or like next to none at all, because the deck has never been able to perform. But I'm not saying
Yeah,
it's a bad
I
deck
don't think
because
it
of
really
that.
did either.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad deck because of it. Like I was saying with hero apps, like I played against Imperial and I got stomped, but I played against Medusa, which is a whole tier lower, and I was on par and the game was even pretty fun. And like that's what Digimon is to me. Um so maybe I'll have to edit that match so people could actually see and understand what I'm talking about. Either that, or maybe you should all just become members and see that match for yourself. Um, the membership. But yeah, like it'll be interesting to see where some of this stuff goes. Like the new Diaboromon is like a lot of people are going to be super hyped for it.
Yeah,
Uh,
because we have a new Corey Saruman that plays out Arata. So like, if you, it's like this one, it's like you don't have like you could play out multiple Aratas if you like. You could play out another one if you have like one or fewer and everything. So that's on the deck really needed. And the fact that this Corey Saruman and the Koromon also have like the same inheritable of just the generic. If it was to leave the battle area, you could delete one of your Diaboromons instead. Like that already is like such a better than the promo decoy Corey Saruman.
well, like the direction that they're taking Diaboromon is weird to me because it feels like they just want to be puppets. It's just like, yeah, I just want to be puppets, but Diaboromon flavor. And like this kind of goes back to like mechanics kind of just like decks doing mechanically the same exact thing, and that kind of gets boring and stale is because like, oh, if I want a token rush-esque deck that utilizes its tokens as a secondary resource to keep itself alive and do aggro stuff, like it's just boring because like so we were wrong on the Caramon. The Caramon is not a cost reducer on digivolving. It is another generic searching tool, which I think is fine. Um it's just now it puts the deck into a position where what do I play for that mechanical identity? Do I play Diaboromon or do I play Puppets? Because the Diaboromon could still do the whole alliance thing because the defensive backbone is on the new Tamer now where it's a redirector. So it's just like now I don't need to waste my time with trying to force blockers into my deck because my Tamer just makes everything a pseudo blocker. I mean, granted, it's still good to have blocker and then the redirect, so that way you could block 2 Digimon with 1 of yours. So that's
You're
still
just not
pretty
heavily
good.
reliant on it now.
Right. And, like, it begs the question on where the Diaboromon is going to go because the Tamer's in SR. So the Diaboromon is most likely going to be a rare, and it's probably going to have rare power levels as a result.
Well, it's not like we haven't seen good rare Digimon before. Like we've seen I'll take for example the Dorogoromon from BT16, I think. Right?
I think that was
But
an
like
SR. He might be a rare.
no,
No,
that
he
one's
is
a
a
rare.
rare. Yeah.
So like I'm like saying that's one fine example. Then we also have the Monzimon from RB01. That's a rare, and it was like really good card. Even the Numamon, Platinum Numamon was a rare. It's like there is good rare cards out there. It's just a matter of can the decks actually use them effectively, and can they actually be good in the meta? Is kind of the thing.
That's a
And if
fair
it's
point.
And even if it isn't, like, say if it's a bad rare and everything, there is so many good Diaboromons we have. We have the Ace Diaboromon that can play out tokens and de-digivolve your opponent. We have the EX6 one. I don't know what it does off the life of me, but
It
like there
spawns
is,
tokens on attack, and it gives all of your Digimon blocker.
yeah. And then we even have the promo one for being really stupid aggressive if you really wanted to, since you now have a built-in block without having to you know, like you could just go full aggro Diaboromon promo to swing multiple, like do multiple checks at your opponent if you really wanted.
Yeah, it's just more tools for the Diaboromon box, and the Diaboromon box has some pretty good stuff going on already. It's just again putting all of those tools to optimize and maximize on its efficiency and game plan is the big thing. But like it's really weird because you look at like the Kurisarimon and the Caramon, and yes, they do have the inheritables for protection. And yes, realistically, you're not going to be getting any of the protection until it's a level 6 Digimon. But the fact that there are low levels of inheritable protection is partially what got a lot of the Garurumon X and Greymon X cards limited. So, like, I'm very confused on where they stand on their design philosophy because, like, those are very key factors on why those cards were limited to begin with. And now they're just making more of those problematic inheritables. Like, this only puts more emphasis and stress on playing cards that can remove inheritables, which is a blue mechanic. So like it's stuff like this that keeps blue in the meta is because of the types of answers that it's going to have for the environment to come. So but I mean granted blue at this point is just Imperial and this is why Imperial is still going to be really good. So it's not blue as a whole is going to be good. It's this is why Imperial is still good. Do you think that Diaboromon will have Tamer hate?
I think it. I don't remember if it actually. No, it doesn't have any Tamer hate before, so
Do you
that
think
is
the
something.
Eaters will be Tamer hate?
I feel like the Eaters has to be Tamer hate because that is literally what they do in the. Drawing a blank here right now for some reason,
In the
but
game?
that is yeah in the game that is literally what they do. literally search out people and eat them. That's why they're called eaters. So like they have to like do some sort of tame or hate with them if they're trying to be more accurate.
Honestly, what I want to see with eaters is I want to see delay option hate and tamer hate. Like I just for whatever reason want them to just delete delayed options. And I think like that would be enough to get me to play the deck. Unfortunately, it's not
Yeah,
enough for me to play Justimon. Cuz he's or Lucimon. But like a deck that basically could just be like the penultimate anti-meta thing is kind of like slightly interesting to me. And then depending on how eaters are done, we might have a new Mother Shoto type combo. I don't
yeah,
know.
because I mean,
There's a lot we don't know yet.
yeah, because I think because we know the eaters do have like I don't know if hmm, I feel like you easily could use the Shoto with it based on the two eaters that we already have, especially if they're reducing the play cost really easy and Shoto it gains you the memory at the start of the turn and end of turn it could give you blocker and everything. Especially if you use medieval Galamon with this deck too, because why not? If it's got room for it.
Right. And I think like that's showing the problems of generic design. When generic cards become too strong, they become like crutches for the game, where it's just like, oh, what do I do when I don't have enough pieces? Well, here, just play Shoto, play Galamon X, play Death X, play Ruin Mode, whatever. Like it Digimon does have a problem with overpowered generic cards, even though they're not going to be ran in every single deck. Just the decks that they are ran in, just it makes them like feel very not. I was gonna say awkward and different, but it's not exactly the case. It's like partially not good. Even like it goes back to my video again, where it's just like you could have unfun decks beyond the lower tier levels. It's not exclusively a high tier thing. It's just more frustrating on the high tiers because you can't do anything about it. So that's kind of like my interpretation. I guess frustrating is the word I was looking for, thinking about it now. It can be just very frustrating or annoying.
Yeah, I definitely like the more anti-interaction a deck is, it just makes it definitely like way frustrating, which is kind of why I wasn't happy seeing that Omnimon Alter S. And it's now got me
No.
really wondering what are they gonna because again, this isn't over yet, and it does make me wonder what they're gonna do with like secret rares in this and everything, because funny enough, EX sorry.
EX9, we're
Uh,
still missing a
yeah,
secret. Yeah.
either we're missing a secret or there's only one secret.
There
Because
has to
remember,
be
they've
more
moved
than
on.
one.
Right, but they would have revealed it if they're already revealing alt arts and everything.
Um. No, not Potomac. It's not Alliance. God, it's not Southern Hobby. I'm trying to remember what distributor website I use. GTS. That's it.
Oh, so GTS literally says two?
I'm checking GTS. What the description says. I can't believe I just like went through the list of sets in my brain. Interesting. They still have advanced decks for starter deck 14.
That is
New
interesting.
Tamer sleeves, Cyber Eden. That's such a filler art for BT20. They have the advanced deck, Amethyst Mandela. That's the Sukuyamon. You got 8 days to pre-order it. At least the stores do. Where's EX9? Holy crap. Yeah, because that's World Convergence. That's EX4. That's BT22. That's BT23. Oh, I just had to scroll down. I'm like, what? It didn't load all the way. EX10, EX8, EX9. Here we go. Versus monsters. Secret Rares 2.
Okay, so
Super
there is
Rares
another one.
12. Yeah.
Okay, so there is another one supposed to get revealed. That's interesting to know. I don't know why they just want to have revealed it already. Or did they forget to reveal it, maybe?
I think maybe. No. I think they're just saving it at the end. Like, to be honest, just to try to build hype and suspense.
Yeah, maybe.
Watch as it's another completely broken card.
It's somehow worse than Alter S.
Honestly,
Because
it
honestly,
wouldn't surprise me at this point. It really
like,
wouldn't.
like I really thought the Alter S was a secret rare because of how powerful and effective it was, but then I double checked. Nope, SR. It's like, wow, okay.
I mean, if anything, it makes it available, which like is a good thing. But like having broken cards be available is also a bad thing because it's just gonna make the game feel worse because a lot of people are gonna be playing it, as we're seeing with Megidramon. But Megidramon, so like going on another little side tangent, Megidramon is a deck where it has very obvious weaknesses, but the big problem is we're not playing the decks that counter it because we can't, because those get countered by literally everything else that's actually competitive. It's like Megidramon is squeezing and ratting his way into the meta, exploiting the fact that the decks that would beat him are being beaten out mostly. Granted, I think Imperial has a pretty okay matchup into him. Just go up into Hexablow and they can't play the game. Um, but that's like just the antithesis of like, yeah, just go up into Hexaplow and it really hurts a lot of other decks because Hexaplow is an incredibly strong card. Um, and then I think Royal Knights kind of eats it alive if it could set up its like Omecamons and do its whole thing. I think Sakuya is the only real problem, and because like Sakuya is a pretty popular deck, Mikidramon will just eat Sakuya alive because it could go faster than them. Like it's a race to see who combos off first. It's wholly uninteresting of a game. It's like do you kill me here or am I able to go off and I can kill you? Because I could lock you out of your racing area with Ruin Mode, turn off your on plays with Volder Arm. Like, yeah, it's very interesting on like how the meta kind of got to where it is. But yeah, so BT22 looking interesting. Still need to know more. EX9 outside of those three decks that we've already mentioned, I don't think it's going to be that great of a set. Depending on the last secret rare, which could be an absolutely broken secret rare, wouldn't shock me if it is at this point. A lot of cards are just completely broken, and it doesn't seem like Bandai's really wanting to try to fix their game. It's weird. So, level with me for a minute, Jay Stewart. How do you feel about the competitive structure this year so far?
It, I would honestly kind of say like definitely has not been a motivational drive for me and everything because I'm trying to think because when I was competing in store regionals and everything like or even the regionals last year like I brought like to like a regionals I brought a uh Mirage Galgamon to that. I didn't do too well with it, but it was still like a kind of a good time for me, I guess, so to say. And the store regionals, I brought Numamon with me, and I got 4-2 with that. And trying to think, uh, third store regionals, I played Ancient Garurumon with that. Like all those decks, like I kind of had like I felt like there was like a counter. I wouldn't say counter timing. It was like definitely counter plays. Like there was like strategies I could do to my opponent and everything.
Well, no,
Because
so like what I'm talking about is the number of events and how they're being ran. Well, not necessarily how they're being ran, just where they're being distributed.
oh, even being distributed, I mean, it definitely does feel like we mentioned it last time. I think there's like just doesn't seem like there's a lot of events getting out there this year compared to last year this time.
Yeah, I feel like they're putting a lot. more emphasis on store play, which I think is fine. That's what they need to do. But I also feel like as a result, they're kind of lacking on their like bigger events, which is very unfortunate because like a lot of the um rewards, like the reasons why we're playing outside of for the sake of playing, um don't feel that great. Like looking at the prize cards and whatnot, it feels very tone deaf and awkward. And I get like part of it is they are printing these. Let's just use God, Bandai Premium logic. They're printing these 6 months before the events are actually happening. So it's just like they should know what to be able to print to make it more appealing for us to want to play. Like they barely give out prize SRs and everything feels like it's just a prize rare and below, which is like fine, but it feels worthless.
Yeah, because like even if it's like the stuff gets printed off 6 months in advance and everything, they should know what they're coming out with too. Like take the Shadramon and everything. Like they they put it in event packs and everything because they literally during that time frame have a purple virus Imperial Dramon deck that kind of really needs that one card.
Yeah, like it just feels like their timing is off for when something's supposed to come out and impact us the players to when we actually are getting the cards. Like there's a timing disconnect. And like where I'm going with this is Bandai Premium just released another new product. I know, shocker. It's actually a really good product. I got to do my review for it. But it's a really good product. The only problem is we're pre-ordering it now in June and we're not getting it till January. 6 months later when the majority of the cards probably are gonna either like those decks are there's a high chance a lot of them are gonna fade out of existence by then and be completely irrelevant. A very high chance of that. So but these are cards we want and need now. So it's just like they announced it now. They're printing them now, but we're not getting them until they're irrelevant. And I feel like that's the epitome of what Bandai's pricing is we're getting them way later than we reasonably should, and we're getting the bad versions of the cards too. So it's just like with the regulation battle, we're getting a Shumon. Is it the promo Shumon? No, it's the starter deck Shumon. Well, why the heck would I need the starter deck Shumon?
Yeah, when you can literally find the starter decks in stores still at times, or even at locals.
Right. It feels like what they are printing sometimes just feels completely tone deaf.
Yeah, because I mean, I saw the Liberators thing. Now, I will say, seeing the Vortex card getting reprinted, that's a really good one to have. I mean, the one thing I kind of a gripe with I have with this is why is it not Hexablaumon getting reprinted? Now I understand Hexablaw is not her main Digimon, but Hexablaw is like a sought after card. Like literally, this is me personally speaking.
Dude, I would have just put Battle NPC and Hexablaumon in. Like that would have been the easiest thing. Or like Battle honestly, NPC and Imperial. Like even though Imperial really doesn't need it and he's not a Liberator trait, but is Hexablaumon
he's in Liberators.
Yeah. Is Hexablaumon a Liberator trait?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, so they easily could have just done Battle NPC and Hexablaumon just because he's a Liberator trait Digimon.
Yeah, and then also the Sistermon Seal. I'm trying, or
I
not
think
Sistermon.
She's Liberator trait.
No. Sorry, Cinderelmon. That one being the EX7 one, that's a good one to have. But the Saphagamon, that one's like a starter deck version. Why not be the EX7 one? You're already using cards in EX7, you know?
Or even Saphaga Ace.
Even Saphaga Ace, yeah.
Like that's what I've always had a gripe with is like just there's specific cards that they just are actively avoiding reprinting for whatever reason, and it drives me up a wall because not only are we getting these cards late, um, but because we want them now, obviously, being consumers, we just want it as soon as possible. But um, they just choose to reprint really bad cards. Like, or it's not like they're reprinting bad cards. Like the starter deck Zafaga is way better than EX7 Zafaga, but EX7 Zafaga holds more value because he's a harder to get card, which would then drive interest toward it, even though it is a fundamentally worse card. At least like the Ace, there's an argument for it where it's like it's a good middle ground. But yeah, it's always frustrating when they just choose not to reprint the good cards when they have the opportunity to reprint the better version of a card.
Yeah, because I mean, like if they didn't even want to do Safagamon, like imagine if they had done Medieval Galamon.
I would have loved that. Another Medieval Gallant reprint would have been absolutely fantastic. Um, and like
Yeah,
that
because
goes
like
to tournament pricing where it's just like, you want to know what would get my ass in that seat? A good card to chase after. Like that's the easiest way to do it. That's why this event pack, just because of the Shadramon and the Protoform, like it's something that's worth trying to chase for. Like you could have duds in those packs. Ideally, you wouldn't want duds in those packs, but like you're giving players something to chase, something to want, something to try to achieve. And I feel like Bandai's just not been doing, at least on the Digimon side, a good job at driving that interest, especially when the event structure right now is like under, like not really under new management, but like just in the works and reworks, trying to figure out what they actually want their competitive scene and structure to look like. Because I'm 90% sure it's going to be changing next year because this year, I mean, outside of the fact that I'm not trying to play competitively, it just is. It feels so dry. It feels so painfully dry.
yeah, it's not like because the only incentive really for me to go play at the regionals right now is trying to get that Shadramon, but also to get my invite. Now I know there's the protoform in there, but I got my place as a protoform already, so I'm not necessarily too keen on trying to get protoforms. So like, and even like just participation cards, it's like they're not necessarily like I'm trying to remember. Like I feel like that we used to have really good, and I mean really good participation cards in other regionals where you could at least get like promos and everything that were a little hard to get.
It's been
Because like
hit and
I'm thinking
miss.
around like yeah, because like I'm trying to think like the back in BT9 and everything in the Kansas City regionals, they had the Koromon and the Inframon promos that were in those event packs and everything. I know they weren't good at the time, but I didn't have those, so a chance for me to try to get something like those were even really good. Or, I'm sorry, no,
No,
or it's just
I know what you mean. Like they
well, I
have
should
opportunities to do better and then they just don't, and then it leaves us disappointed because we want them to do better, and it's not like it's costing them anything extra to actually do us justice and give us the cards that we want. Part of the reason why they don't is money, but they also realize they could make the money if they give us, the ability to try to get them in other means. So like, it's so weird. But I think we're hitting time for this episode to wrap up. And like, we're not trying to like hate on anything at this moment. We just obviously are fans and just want Bandai to do better. But one thing I will say, going back to the Bandai Premium thing, as much as I hate Bandai Premium and their current model on how they do things, like I get it. It takes time to take the orders in, see how much they need to print the allocated amount, package, ship, whatever. I already know all that stuff. It takes time, which is why we're on such a big time lag. Um, but there's obviously ways that they could reduce it. They could preemptively do stuff. They could like give us cards that are basically spoiled cards. Like, they could spoil cards that way. So that way, when we're getting those cards, it's when we actually need those cards. So, like, there's a multitudes of ways that they could improve it. But I do think if you're interested in Liberator stuff, buy 2 of this set. It's like $60 a set, and you basically will have the boss monster for every Liberator deck. And it's like you're pretty much set for every Liberator deck. It's a fantastic buy from a value perspective. It's actually one of the biggest uh, amounts of cards that they've given in Bandai Premium. It's like 52 cards. I'm like, geez, that's a lot.
That's like enough to build a deck with.
I mean, you're not able to build a deck because all of them are different, and most of them is just tamers and boss monsters. But there's a lot of characters in it, so like you get a lot of cards, and a lot of those cards, a good portion of them do have some value. So it's probably worth the buy, even if it comes out late. Who knows where Liberator is? Where maybe some of those cards could actually continue to see play. We don't know. Because look at Tyrannomon as an example of like a deck that was a flash in the pan and now everyone dropped it. And I think Tyrannomon's still pretty good, but nobody's playing it. But I digress. So if you're interested, check out Bandai Premium's website to get that. Any final words and thoughts, Jay Stewart?
Unfortunately for me, I don't think I got anything. I'm sorry.
You're totally fine. We've been rambling long enough. So thank you everyone for listening and making it all the way to the end, listening to 2 guys just yap about Digimon. It really does mean the world to us that you listen, especially towards and made it to the end. So, thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next episode.